Welcome to another episode of Life Stories Unplugged. I'm Alex, and today I'm joined by my good friend Taylor. We're excited to kick off a new series where we delve into personal stories, experiences, and what makes us who we are. Taylor, how are you doing today?
Hey, Alex. I'm doing great, thanks. Really excited to be here and to share a bit about ourselves with our listeners. This is going to be fun.
Absolutely. So, let's start with some basics. Taylor, why don't you tell our listeners a bit about where you come from and your early life?
Sure, I was born and raised in a small town in Vermont. It was one of those places where everyone knows everyone and community plays a big role in daily life. I grew up surrounded by nature, with the Green Mountains right in our backyard. My parents ran a small bed and breakfast, so I got to meet people from all over the world from a young age. What about you, Alex?
That's awesome. I grew up in a completely different setting. I'm originally from Chicago, Illinois. The hustle and bustle of the city was my playground. My parents were both involved in the arts. My mom is a painter, and my dad is a musician. So, creativity was always encouraged at home. I guess that's partly why I ended up loving storytelling and eventually podcasting.
That's really cool. I can imagine that being in such a vibrant city with artistic parents must have been inspiring. Did you always know you wanted to get into podcasting?
Not at all. I actually went to college for journalism. I thought I'd end up working for a major newspaper or a magazine. But during my internships, I found that I loved the more conversational, in depth nature of podcasting. It allows for a deeper connection with the audience, and you can really explore topics in detail. How about you, Taylor? What path did you take?
I can relate to that shift in career paths. I originally studied environmental science because I was passionate about nature and sustainability. But after a few years in the field, I realized I wanted to do something that allowed me to interact more with people on a daily basis. That's how I transitioned into education. I'm now a high school science teacher, which lets me combine my love for the environment with my desire to make a difference in young people's lives.
That's wonderful. Teaching is such a fulfilling profession. It must be rewarding to see your students grow and learn. What's one of the most memorable moments you've had as a teacher?
There are so many, but one that stands out is when one of my students, who struggled a lot with self-confidence, won first place in a science fair. It was a project on renewable energy that we worked on together. Seeing the pride in his eyes and the recognition he got from his peers and teachers was incredible. Moments like those make all the hard work worth it.
That's amazing. It's those moments that really show the impact you're having. Speaking of impact, what do you think has been the most significant influence in your life?
I'd have to say my grandparents. They lived through some tough times and always emphasized the importance of resilience and kindness. Their stories of perseverance and their unwavering support have shaped who I am today. How about you, Alex? Who or what has had the biggest influence on your life?
For me, it's been a combination of my parents and the diverse cultural experiences I had growing up in Chicago. My parents always encouraged me to be curious and to explore different perspectives. And living in a city with so many different cultures, I was exposed to a variety of ideas and traditions from a young age. It really opened my mind and fueled my passion for storytelling and understanding people.
That's really interesting. It's amazing how our backgrounds and experiences shape us in different ways. Speaking of which, let's talk a bit about hobbies and interests outside of work. What do you enjoy doing in your free time, Alex?
I'm a huge fan of music, which I guess isn't surprising given my dad's influence. I play the guitar and occasionally perform at local open mics. It's a great way to unwind and connect with others. I'm also into hiking and try to get out of the city whenever I can to explore nature. How about you, Taylor? You?
I love hiking too. Growing up in Vermont, it's kind of in my blood. I also enjoy gardening. There's something really therapeutic about growing your own vegetables and flowers. Another passion of mine is reading, especially historical fiction and biographies. There's so much to learn from the past.
Absolutely. Books are like windows into different worlds and eras. Speaking of which, do you have a favorite book or author?
That's a tough one. I'd say one of my all-time favorite books is The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Burnett. It's a beautiful story of healing and growth. In terms of authors, I really admire David McCullough for his ability to bring history to life. What about you, Alex?
I love To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. It's such a powerful and timeless story about justice and morality. As for authors, I'm a big fan of Malcolm Gladwell. His books always offer fascinating insights into human behavior and society.
Great choices. It's clear we both have a love for stories that offer deeper insights into life and human nature. This actually makes me think about how important storytelling is in all forms, including podcasting. What do you think makes a great podcast?
For me, a great podcast combines engaging storytelling with insightful content. It's about creating a connection with the audience and offering them something valuable, whether that's knowledge, entertainment, or a new perspective. Authenticity is key. Listeners can tell when you're being genuine. How about you, Taylor?
I completely agree. Authenticity and connection are crucial. I also think a great podcast should be inclusive and diverse, representing different voices and experiences. It's a platform that can bring people together and foster understanding. And of course, good production quality doesn't hurt.
Definitely. Good production can make a huge difference in how enjoyable and accessible a podcast is. Speaking of which, we're still learning and improving with each episode. It's a continuous journey. What's one piece of advice you'd give to someone starting their own podcast?
I'd say don't be afraid to start, even if it's not perfect. Just get your ideas out there and be open to learning and growing along the way. Also, engage with your audience. Their feedback can be incredibly valuable. What advice would you give, Alex?
I'd echo that and add the importance of finding your unique voice. There are so many podcasts out there, but what sets yours apart is you, your perspective, your experiences, and your passion. Embrace that uniqueness and let it shine through in your episodes.
Well said. It's all about being true to yourself and your vision. Speaking of visions, where do you see yourself and our podcast in the next few years?
I'd love for our podcast to grow and reach a wider audience. I also hope to continue exploring new topics and bringing on diverse guests. Personally, I'd like to keep expanding my skills in audio production and storytelling. What about you, Taylor?
I share that vision for our podcast. I'd love for it to become a platform for meaningful conversations and stories that inspire and inform. On a personal level, I hope to continue making a positive impact through teaching and possibly writing a book one day.
That's fantastic. A book by Taylor. I'd definitely read that. It's exciting to think about all the possibilities ahead. Before we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners about yourself or our journey?
Just that I'm incredibly grateful for this opportunity to share our stories and connect with so many amazing people. It's been a rewarding journey, and I'm excited for what's to come. Thank you to all our listeners for being a part of this with us.
Absolutely. We couldn't do this without our listeners' support. Thank you for tuning in and being part of our community. We have a lot of great content planned, so stay tuned for more episodes of Life Stories Unplugged. Until next time, take care and keep exploring your own stories.